All right. I'm Matthew Bellisario. Welcome to the BellisarioSonic YouTube channel. I'm excited to have here with me Charles Chen, who has released this fantastic record that's sitting next to me on the Cellar music group label. And I've been trying to catch up with him, and finally he is here to share his experience as a piano player. I believe you're a composer. You've been in the Bay Area. I guess you're out in California. And you've been on the music scene out there for about 15 years from what I read. You can fill us in there. And you've been playing in festivals and doing some touring here. And this is your first record here, from what I understand. So I thank you for coming on the channel, Charles. And first of all, congratulations on the record, which is fantastic. And could you go ahead and maybe give us a little background about your musical upbringing? I'm always curious to hear how you got into playing music.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Matthew, for having me on this channel. And I just wanted to say, someone told me about your review that you did of me, and I just started watching the other reviews that you've done, and it's really great. You are able to find maybe albums that people haven't really heard of before and kind of bring them into the public light. I think it's great. Really
awesome. I appreciate that. Hopefully it's working.
So in terms of my musical upbringing, I've learned piano when I was very young. I started playing classical. I think I started in first grade. And then I started learning jazz in high school. So in junior year, I joined the jazz band. And I played a little bit there. Sometime, one of the summers afterwards, I went to the Stanford Jazz Workshop. And I had my first jazz piano teacher, Taylor Eichste. And he taught me a little bit of stuff. Then I went to college, so I went to UC Berkeley, not Berkeley School of Music, but the one in California. And I didn't study music there. I studied math. But I also took some lessons with a local guy named Peter Horvath, who's kind of like a fusion, like a little bit of straight ahead player. And then from then on, I started taking gigs, played around just in local bars, restaurants, things like that. I had a great friend, actually the person that inspired me to record at all, Tim Lin, who used to grow up with me. He played sax, and so he just recorded an album. He's like, Charles, you got to record an album. It'll change your life. So I think I recorded that album basically after COVID. I was like, okay, you're right. There's only one life you get. You got to record at some point. So I just did it. What else happened? So college. After college, I was still playing. I also started a full-time job in software. So which I'm still doing a software job. This actually my day job is I do software, but at night, and basically right after I clock out of work, I start working on music.
Nice.
During COVID, I had a lot more free time, and so that's when I started composing. I think I composed 4 songs on the record, and maybe arranged for one more. And I really like composing. I think it's actually one of the things I've always wanted to do ever since I was a little kid, because I wanted to make classical music, basically. But it just turns out that jazz is also another passion of mine, so I kind of combined the two and started making jazz pieces. During COVID, I started doing a lot of composing. I also started taking more lessons online because everybody was kind of doing that then. And so I got lessons with some great piano players. Andy Laverne, David Hazeltine, Jeb Patton, Mike Ladon, everybody.
Wow.
Probably everybody in that list behind you. And the other thing that I started doing during COVID was teaching online too. So actually, you might find this interesting. One of my students is Bill Evans' grandson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the pianist,
yeah.
not the sax player.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
He actually just released an album that you might want to check out.
Oh, really?
Called Evans on Evans.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's his name?
Jaden Evans.
Jaden Evans. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to write that. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. I found him because I'm an admin on a jazz chat room online, basically a jazz Discord, and a bunch of people there kind of ask for lessons occasionally, and I give it to them. And this kid comes up, he's like, "Hey, I'm Bill Evans's grandson. But I always want to learn jazz, but I don't have ever had a jazz teacher. Can someone help me?" And nobody believed him, right? Because it's the internet, No, and then I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll teach you." And so from then on out, we've been working together for almost 2 years now. It's been great. And I've also started teaching some other kids from kind of all over the world. So I have a student in Australia, a student in the UK, a bunch of students kind of scattered all over the place. Jaden's in North Carolina. I have a kid in Arizona, kid in Seattle, just like everywhere. And these are mostly like high school kids or college kids, but they're really determined because they actually are seeking out information. So I've been having a lot of fun teaching them, and they've been winning all kinds of awards. Like 2 of them won an award for the Young Arts competition. Basically, it's like the best instrumentalist, a jazz instrumentalist of your state. So like they're the best, jazz pianist in Arizona. Yeah, that's crazy. I think that's really cool.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people that I talk to, they're into jazz education or music education, and they always talk about how much they learn from actually teaching too, because you have to go do your research and then get better yourself, right?
Yeah, I actually have to, be able to do the homework I assign, which is hard sometimes. Sometimes just playing something with a metronome is really difficult, or revisiting some fundamentals I thought I knew, and it turns out I don't. So it's always good to work on those things.
So you said you started off playing classical. What made you interested in jazz? Was it your teachers, or was it just people you knew?
So I think I've always been interested in learning how to improvise. I think I remember the very first jazz album I had was when, which one was it? It was the Ella Fitzgerald record, the one where she's singing "How High the Moon" and forgets the words.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
I was just listening to it actually a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but that was my first album that I had. Like my grandma collected a bunch of kind of like old like stuff from America, and we. Oh right, I guess I didn't tell you this. I wasn't born in the U.S. I was born in Taiwan.
Okay.
And then around 3 or 4 years old, I moved to Japan, because that's where my grandmother remarried to a Japanese person, and then. We moved here like around first grade. So in California. Yeah. So but in Japan, the Japanese people, love jazz. So there's like a lot of resources. I actually just went back to Tokyo like 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks, 2 years ago, and it was crazy. They have these bars, hi-fi bars, where they just have like stacks of vinyls, and you can listen to it on like really nice equipment while drinking whatever you want to drink. It's really neat.
I see. There's like a book on those online I saw, and they're called like Jazz Bistro or Jazz. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And you can go, you put your headphones on, listen to records, or they play them as well for you. Is that how it is?
Yeah, you get to choose. It's like or there might be. It depends on the situation. There might be somebody like curating, but yeah, it's really neat. I really liked it. And it's like hi-fi equipment. It's like nice equipment. Yeah.
That's awesome. Would they serve drinks and stuff, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
That's something we need to come up with something like that for the U.S. because I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
Like that. There's one craft brew place in Nashville. It's called Vinyl Tap, I think, or something like that. I haven't been there, but it's supposed to be a craft beer / record store. But anyways, that's pretty cool. So you got into jazz. You were pretty much interested in it. What particular piano players caught your attention that you were like, oh, I gotta learn some of the phrasing of particular players?
Yeah. So when I grew up, I also listened to a lot of Gene Harris and Oscar Peterson, those kinds of guys. Then when I got like more into jazz, I started learning more about kind of the architects of the music, like Bud Powell, like Art Tatum, people like that. So someone asked me, they always ask me like who my influences are, and I just say everybody, because there's just so much to learn from every character in the history. It's great.
Yeah, there's no shortage of fantastic piano players to learn from. So let's talk about this record. So I think Corey was saying that this record was pretty much done when it kind of got to him. He's, I guess, the executive producer on it, but coming to the Cellar label. But how did you? So you're playing with a pretty high-powered rhythm section here. These Peter Washington and Kenny Washington are very well known. They've been around a long time. He's played with Bill Charlap. I think that they formed their trio 20 years ago, 25 years ago. How did you get in contact with them, and how did this album come about?
Yeah, so Kenny and Peter were introduced to me by Ralph, who was also on the album. And Ralph I met because he lives in LA, and so we sometimes play gigs together. And Ralph played a lot with Kenny and Peter. There used to be a bunch of quintet and quartet records with them plus Benny Green, which I don't know if you know. And then there's some with Roy Hargrove. There's some with Terrell Stafford. There's some really great recordings. Yeah.
They play with everybody. I mean,
yeah. And so I've always wanted to play with Kenny and Peter because I'm a big fan of Charlap. I'm a big fan of Benny Green. Not to mention all the other historical stuff they worked on. Like Kenny used to work with Johnny Griffin. Peter used to be on the Messengers. Everybody used to be on everywhere. And so it was just really fun to play with them. And yeah, really fun to actually meet them because they were extremely nice people.
So how did you? So you met them through Ralph Moore, who plays the tenor on this. How did this project come together? In other words, how did you, pick the recording studio, all that kind of stuff? You recorded at Octaven Audio here in New Jersey. Tell us about that, about putting this together, and about the compositions here.
Yeah.
Because you've got at least three on here that are yours.
Yeah, I think there's 4 and then an arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. So how long did you composed all these over a long period of time, and then pick the ones you wanted, or is it they're relatively new?
Well, I think when did I record? I recorded in January 2023, and I think I finished all the compositions in October because actually Kenny wanted me to give him the compositions half a year in advance because he's a very particular, studies everything, wants to make sure everything's right kind of guy. So he really kind of forced me to do it early. Typically jazz musicians don't even show up until the day of with the music. The recording studio was Octaven in Mount Vernon, New York, and we picked that venue because that's actually the recording studio in New York that has the best piano, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of did a lot of canvassing and just really liked that piano. I actually recorded there again recently this July for my next album, which is coming out next May.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
So what's this piano that draws you there?
Yeah, it's just a beautiful rebuilt Hamburg Steinway. It's like the long one, and you can hear it, especially on the ballad on the album that I have, which is it's got a really nice, warm and rich sound. Kind of reminds me of the vintage classical albums that existed in that era, around the 50s to 80s. And so I really like that kind of sound, and that's the sound that I was going for. This time for my next record, I actually picked their other piano. So they also have a New York Steinway that's a little bit more of aggressive sound. So to that one, you'll hear the difference. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. In terms of the compositions, what's going on there? A lot of them were, I've never recorded any of my compositions before this. I've also never really performed any of them. I've always kind of just kept them in wraps. But I wanted to write something that was recognizable, right? And I used to write a bunch of music, and my wife would listen to it, and she'd be like, "I can't remember any of this. I can't. It's not singable. I don't understand it." And then I was like, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna prove you wrong." And so every song I wrote here should be singable, which and pretty recognizable.
Yeah, the great melodies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so let's go through the songs you chose here. So the first one's "How About You." That's Elaine Reed. What is it?
Burton Lane. Yeah.
Okay. So that's your first tune.
Yeah, that's a standard. Lots of great, people have done it in the past, like Sinatra, Oscar Peterson, a lot of people. And my arrangement of it is kind of like a Cedar Walton-y kind of arrangement. Like I think I started by arranging the verse of the song, which is for those of you that don't know the intro, and then I arranged it like a stop time, kind of Cedar Walton, like like a very kind of classical jazz kind of approach. And then it just goes straight into the swinger, which is some of my favorite music out there. Just pure swinging music.
Yeah. And then "Be My Love" is the next one.
Yeah, "Be My Love" is a great song. I first heard it because I watched a YouTube video of Barry Harris playing it as his trio. And I've always loved that song because just the first notes in the melody bring a lot of nostalgia to me. I think there's something really nice about the da 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 da. It kind of sounds like an opera kind of thing or something, which is really beautiful.
Then you got "Simple Pleasure."
Yeah, "Simple Pleasure."
Is Cedar Walton, right?
Another Cedar tune. And again, a lot of hits and a lot of just hard swinging, no nonsense. Watch Kenny Washington drive the band kind of thing.
Yeah, I love it. Your song, the first one that's on here, is called "Chopin."
That's right. Chopin's
a unique song. I think it's really clever. I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chopin is a song that's, obviously it's very sad and creepy and kind of haunting. There's kind of like this start and stop kind of thing that happens after every solo, which is kind of different. Kind of blurs in and blurs out into the next solo, and blurs in and blurs out into the melody. And then the chord progressions are just kind of messed up. They're kind of hard to play.
So did you just pass out lead, or no? You said you sent everything out to them in advance. So you probably had sheet music for all the compositions.
That's right.
And when you went into the studio, were there just lead sheets passed out? Everybody had the music. How was the improvisation versus the composition side of things in the studio? I'm always interested in that.
Yeah, I think it was just lead sheets, and then everybody just improvised just like regular. So everybody's kind of well versed in doing that. But they were given the lead sheets in advance so they can look through it and kind of understand what's going on.
So they know where all the stops are at and all that kind of stuff, because it sounds to me like some of these could be kind of like,
they're tricky.
Yeah,
they were tricky, and we had to rehearse some of them. It wasn't like we got them right away, but yeah, it's there was a point in time. I think "How About You," which had probably some of the trickiest stuff, and we kept Kenny kept stopping in the middle because he's like, I want to get this right. And then at some point, Peter's like, "Oh, Charles, instead of Charles play, you should call this Kenny practices."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Peter and the Big Bad Wolf, that's also your tune.
That's
which
right.
is pretty catchy, I thought.
Yeah, I love that tune. It's a Blakey shuffle, kind of like Monin, or there's all kinds of other great kind of shuffles from that period of time. And it starts off with this riff that I play, which is actually it's the wolf theme to Peter and the Wolf in Prokofiev's kind of orchestral suite for kids. And in that case, there's 3 French horns playing it. Da 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 da. And so I wanted to bring that in, but also keep it bluesy and also keep it driving. And that's what I came up with. Peter's lines are really cool, especially in the melody, because he's actually doing a lot of counterpoint stuff. And that's none of that's written. That's just him. I just said, go free. Play whatever you want.
Right, which you can't go wrong with those guys, right? I mean, they're going to come up with something great.
That's right.
These Foolish Things is the next one. And the thing I like on this record, too, is there's, they're like around 5 to 6, a little over 6 minutes. So they're long enough where there's plenty of room for everybody to play, and at the same time they're not so long where it's like, oh, where people that are new to jazz might kind of be turned off by it. So I think it's a really accessible record as well. But so These Foolish Things is the next one.
Yeah, and just to go back to your point, I've always wanted to make my music accessible. I think later on they can discover, the 30-minute Coltrane tracks or whatever. But in the beginning, I think when they're listening to the radio, just melody, like a short statement of the improv, and then go. I think that's always really great for me. These Foolish Things, it's the only ballad on the song. Well, I guess unless you consider Chopin to be ballad, but it's the only kind of traditional ballad, and that's really what draws me to music. There's we were talking about influences, and some of my other influences that are really near and dear to me. Bill Evans, obviously, was one of the masters of the ballads. Hank Jones, another master of the ballad, and Tommy Flanagan. And like the kind of all of those guys inform my playing here. Barry Harris, lots of great people inform my playing here. And I was doing some stuff kind of related to the Barry Harris school, which is like more like moving harmony instead of just static harmony that you would normally learn in music school. And so that shows up in there too.
Then you got the Passport, which is the next one.
Yeah, classic bird tune, but we play it really slow. We play it like a dirty blues, and both me and Ralph kind of have that sensibility, like to be able to play like kind of like really slow and swinging and just in the pocket, and having Kenny and Peter is always a plus.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know what to expect when I saw that on there. I was like, oh, this gonna be. That was pretty cool. And then Golson is the last one, which is also your composition.
Yeah, Golson. So Benny Golson is one of my compositional heroes. I think the songs that he writes are so catchy, and so beautiful, and also his orchestration, what he does with many horns, like with his sextets and his quintets. And what I liked about his music is that it's very simple in melody, and that's kind of what I wanted to get at in Golson. So again, a kind of a slow swinger, but also just in my opinion, a nice melody.
Yeah. So what I want to know is about the cover, because I think I was like, this is a cool cover, and Corey was like, yeah, I didn't know what to make of it at first. So that's what Corey Weed said. So tell us about the cover, because I think it was kind of cool. I saw it and I was like, this kind of that the back, so tell us about the cover.
Yeah, so it's me. I think sometime when I was 4, so I was probably in Japan at the time, and it's me walking very fast, right? And so Ralph, when he saw the cover, he's like, oh yeah, that sounds like the intro to Peter and the Wolf. It's like kind of like Charles in Charge, kind of like just like walking through, like get out of the way kind of thing. And if you didn't know, Charles play is kind of a wordplay phrase, because it kind of sounds like child's play too.
Oh, I gotcha.
And if you read my liner notes, it talks about how I love play, but I also like taking it very seriously. And what's more serious than like a little kid, like just like like busting through the street, like really seriously, like I gotta go somewhere. Where are they going? They're just a kid.
So who drew this?
Yeah, so my sister-in-law drew it.
And then the back too.
Yeah, she drew the whole thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's an actual picture of me. There's a model of it somewhere. I'll send it to you later.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I this is a cool cover. It's something different, and it catches your attention.
Yeah. I think most modern jazz covers are kind of like just done pretty quickly now, and it's not like back in the Blue Note era where they really thought a lot about like font design and like how to rearrange the images and stuff. So that's kind of what I wanted to go for, but also like have this drawn aspect too.
Cool. Yeah, and Corey, there's some pretty interesting covers He's got a pretty cool cover on his album called Cookin', with that kind of cartoon.
Yeah, we're the cartoon blocky guy.
Yeah, kind of cool.
Yeah.